A question from @Orion_Khan, who asks, we know for certain that Kavanaugh lied under oath to the Senate in 2004 and 2006 regarding stolen emails. This perjury is grounds for removal from his current judicial appointment, so why don't we hear more about it? This alone should stop him. It should, and that's crazy to me. You know, even before the first accuser came forward against Kavanaugh, we already had evidence of 4 different times when Kavanaugh committed perjury in front of the Senate Judiciary Committee. And yes, he was under oath, and he lied. That's illegal. That is. That's why Bill Clinton got impeached for lying under oath. And yet that whole story about Kavanaugh disappeared when the accusers came forward. And I understand that sexually assaulting someone is 1,000 times worse than lying under oath. I do. I get it. But we had already known about the perjury before the women came forward. So the fact that Republicans didn't even decide to, you know what, Kavanaugh, you got to get out, okay? If you don't get out now, you're going to lose your current job because they've got all this evidence of perjury. They didn't care. They still pushed forward with it. And that's why I keep going back to this point that I've made time and time again. Kavanaugh's not going to be sitting on any bench for the rest of his life. We have that evidence of perjury now. And don't think that the Democrats are not keeping that in their back pocket. So even if Kavanaugh goes to the Supreme Court, which is most likely going to happen, I mean, hey, it could have happened already. I don't know. But if he goes, he's not going to be there for too long. Because when the Democrats eventually get control of the Senate again, they'll launch investigations, not just into the sexual assault, but into the perjury. They're going to pull the documents. They're going to pull the testimony. They're going to put them side by side and say, he said this here, and they contradicted it here by saying something the exact opposite. So one of these is a lie. Doesn't really matter which one because it's perjury. Then you get to impeach him. If he's sitting on the lower bench, you impeach him from there. He's out of the court system for the rest of his life, at least on the judicial side. If he's on the Supreme Court, you impeach him from there, and then you got a vacancy once again. So I don't think that the Democrats, those in power, have actually forgotten about the perjury. I think they think that nailing him on the sexual assault is going to be a better issue to get him out and get his nomination out. Unfortunately, they didn't count on the fact that Republicans have no problem with it. I mean, watch Fox News, if you can stomach it, for 30 minutes, and you'll see that these people have no problem at all with sexual assault. I mean, CNN this past weekend sat down with a couple of Trump supporters and they said, look, even if he did it, it doesn't bother me. He should still go to the Supreme Court. They're trying to write it off like, it was in high school. All boys rape in high school. They said that. They actually said that. All boys have done this in high school. No, we haven't, by the way. And if you think all boys do this, then I'm pretty sure you need to go speak to authorities right now because obviously somebody's done this to you and they need to be held accountable as well. So Republicans don't care about the sexual assault. They're going to push forward. The Democrats thought it would be enough to stop him. It's been enough to turn the public against him, that's for sure. And that's also important. But it's not enough to actually stop the nomination. That's where the perjury comes in. You got to have that. You've got to keep that. And as long as we know that that happens, and as long as we have that evidence, it doesn't matter how long it takes. You know, if it's 6 years before the Democrats take back the Senate, well, we could still impeach him then. He could do an awful lot of damage on either the lower court or the Supreme Court in that amount of time. But eventually, this man's going to pay for his crimes. He's going to pay for it with his job. And then Republicans are going to pay for it with their jobs. That's the next step, because it's not just about Kavanaugh. It's about the people, these Republican politicians who railroaded this nomination through, didn't want to listen to the accusers, didn't want to start an investigation, didn't want to pay attention to the perjury. They are complicit at this point, and they need to be held accountable. Unfortunately, the only way they can be held accountable is with their constituents. So if the Democrats are holding on to that perjury information, if they're holding on to this sexual assault information, the best thing they can do is use it for every Republican member of that Judiciary Committee in an election campaign against them. Make sure that information gets to their opponent, whether they're running this year, 2 years from now, or or 2 years after that. Either way, they have to be held accountable for ignoring the rule of law here in the United States. We have to take a quick break, but again, if you have a question for us, please send it using the hashtag AskROF, and we will respond here on the air. You can also send it to us at Ring of Fire Radio, or you can send it to me directly at Farron Balanced. We love hearing from you. We love the questions. We love this, kind of interaction. So please do send it, and we will respond on the air. We've got to take a quick break, but we'll be right back.